Shabbat shalom, everyone. I hope you are doing well. This week's parsha is Haazinu, so it's a really close to the end of Moshe's life. He's been giving, as we discussed, a 5-week speech to the children of Israel, detailing all the things that have gone on in Moshe's reign as their leader, and reminding them of all the important things they should do so that they can live happy lives. And in this in the final words that Moshe speaks to the Jewish people in this parsha, it's described as a song. So a song could mean melody, singing, song, that sort of thing. But what we pick up is that this language that's used is much more flowery than the more common Torah language. It's much more descriptive. It's kind of sounds like Tehillim, kind of sounds like the Psalms that we have that are said to have been written by King David. There's a lot of really beautiful text. And what's the point of the fact that it's a song? So let's just say that it is like a song with a melody and lyrics and notes. What's so special about Moshe's last words to the Jewish people being a song? Firstly, I always think about this, and I may have said this to you guys before, but there's two kinds of memory loss. There's Broca's aphasia and Wernicke's aphasia, of memory loss and speech impediment and sort of just brain functioning. Okay, so Broca's aphasia is when you can only speak in jolted, small amounts of words, and you're not able to, you know what you want to say, but you can't quite get it across. And then Wernicke's aphasia is when you can say lots and lots and lots of things, but it's all nonsense. But with patients of both of these types of brain damage, they are both able to sing songs like the ABCs or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, or things that are stored in, or count things that are stored in a different part of their brain. And again, I know I probably have talked about this, but what is a song if not something to stick in a different part of our brain? It's not just laws to memorize. That's not a very easy thing to memorize and to make sure that we think about and are conscious of. But a song is wonderful. My favorite things to do in Judaism are to sing and to be passionate about the singing and to make beautiful noise and that sort of thing. It's just a cool kind of concept. We're not being told by Moshe in these last few minutes of his life before he ascends to Har Nevo, to Mount Nebo. We're not being told laws. We're being told a song because it's supposed to stick in a part of our brain that won't go away, which is a lovely idea. Okay, so that's Haazinu, and then on Sunday evening, we begin to celebrate the holiday of Sukkot, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in depth, but Sukkot is called, in our liturgy, Zman Simchatenu, Zman meaning time, Simchatenu meaning our happiness. So Sukkot is the time of our happiness. Shouldn't that be Purim? Because don't we know that Purim is the holiday that we're supposed to be happy? In Adar, the month that Purim is in, it says in the Talmud that Misha Nichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. When we enter the month of Adar, our happiness increases. So why isn't Purim Zman Simchatenu? We have other Zmans. We have Zman Cherutenu. That's a Passover, the time of our freedom, Zman Cherutenu. That makes sense because we're being freed from Egypt. And then Shavuot is Zman Matan Tortenu, the time of the giving of our Torah, the gift of our Torah. Okay. Those make sense. But Sukkot is Zman Simchatenu. What does Sukkot have to do with happiness? I don't know that we really talk about happiness that much with Sukkot. I'll give you the short of the long, and maybe we can talk about it more in depth later. But Sukkot is the final harvest of the season. So it is said that on Shavuot is known as a harvest season. It's in the middle of the summer. So part of the harvest was traditionally done on Shavuot, but the final big harvest of the year was done on Sukkot. So the Rebbe has a really beautiful thought. The Rebbe of Chabad, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, has a lovely idea about why Sukkot, being the final time of the harvest, is so satisfying and so happy. So we've spent the whole year kind of being anxious about how our crops are going to do, and that's a metaphor. We can be anxious about how our life is going to turn out. We can be anxious about if a job is going to work out. We can be anxious if a person is going to work out with us. That sort of thing. Like, we have a lot of things that we're anxious about, and in the olden days, people were nervous about their crops. So the Rebbe says that, the whole year you're kind of anxious about how your crops are going to turn out. You don't have the final result. You're working on them. You're putting a lot of work in. It's a long, delayed gratification situation. Shavuot, you get to reap some of the benefits. You get to harvest some of the crop. Great, cool. But it's not over just yet. Sukkot is when it's finally over, when you've seen all of the results, when you understand why everything had to be the way it had to be. You see the result, you see the crop, the metaphorical crop, and that is is what gives us the most joy, when we're able to see how all the things of our past can line up and make us understand our present. And that comes back to what a song is. So I've talked about this before, but the liturgical or Jewish idea of a song isn't really something with words and a melody. A song is the situation when all of these unrelated situations come together and make sense to us. And rarely do we have that experience where we see why all of these failures had to happen, why all these struggles had to happen, why all of this hard work had to go into something. But when we finally get the result, when we finally see what is meant, what has been always trying to happen and now has finally occurred, that is a song. That is a Shira. And it's just really cool to think about it in relation to Haazinu, this final song that Moshe gives to the Jewish people, and also Sukkot, Zman Simchatinu, that it's this delayed gratification, this finally understanding all these pieces together. So those are the ideas for this week's Parsha and Sukkot. Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, and I will see you, please God, next week.